Login accepted.
Hey everybody, this is Freddy. In today's video, we're going to talk about some basic VLAN configurations. I've launched Cisco Packet Tracer here on my desktop, and we're going to take a look at a few basic setups for a VLAN. Okay, so we're going to do a few tasks. First thing we're going to do is we're going to need a switch, and we're going to use a layer 3 switch because in this case it's capable of routing, and we want to do some inter-VLAN routing. So let's grab this switch and we'll just place it right there. Next, we're going to want some end devices. So I'm going to grab a couple of PCs. For the sake of simplicity, we'll make each PC its own. We'll imagine there's a bunch of PCs connected for those VLANs. So we'll say this guy is VLAN, 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 VLAN. Alright, so let me go ahead and let's just type some notes real quick. So we're going to do 3 VLANs. We'll do VLAN 10, and that guy will be 192.168.10.0/24. And we'll do VLAN 20, 192.168.20.0/24. And we'll do VLAN 30, 192.168.30.0/24. So those will be our 3 networks that we're going to use. And to make this more realistic, I'm going to grab a laptop. And I'm going to go and grab a console cable, and we're going to plug that into our serial port on the laptop and plug it into our console port on the switch. So that's just imagining we were in the real world. We're physically walking up to the switch, we're taking our laptop and we're connecting it with the console cable so that we can program the switch. And then we can take some network cables and plug them in. So this guy will be in port 1, and port 1 to 5 we're going to put in VLAN 10, port 6 to 10 we're going to put in VLAN 20, and port 11 to 15 we'll put in VLAN 30. So why don't we just put that in our notes here. So ports 1 to 5, it's VLAN 10, port 6 to 11, it's VLAN 20, and ports 192, what am I talking about? Ports that's supposed to be 6 to 10, not 6 to 11, and then this is going to be ports 11 to 15. Okay, so we've got that information there. So let's go ahead and connect this guy up to port 6, fast Ethernet to port 6, and then we'll connect this guy, fast Ethernet, up to port, let's go with 11. And now I'm just going to label this guy. Let's call him VLAN 10, and his IP address, we'll give him a static IP in this case. It's going to be 192.168.10.2. This guy will be VLAN 20, 192.168.20.2. Oops. VLAN 30, 192.168.30.2. Alright, so since we're using CIDR notation, we're using 24-bit subnet. that's 255.255.255.0. So let's go ahead and put those static IPs into these devices. So we'll go to desktop, IP configuration, IP address 192.168.10.2. The default gateway. So we're going to do inter-VLAN routing on the layer 3 switch. So we're going to make the default gateway, you can either make it .1 or .254. Let's do that .254. .10.254. Okay, that's good to go. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for this one. So this is the 192.168.20.2. 192.168.20.254. And then the last one, VLAN 30. .192.168.30.2, subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, and default gateway of 192.168.30.2. Alright, so we got our static IPs built in. So we should be all set. Now, let's open up our laptop, and we need a terminal. In the real world, you'd probably be using a terminal app like Putty to connect this up. And we'll hit OK. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? We're going to go ahead and say no to that. And now we're in the switch. Now we could go ahead and do some basic configuration like console passwords, enabling privileged exec mode passwords and stuff like that. But we're not going to do that now. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're focusing on the VLANs. So let's go ahead and set up our VLANs. So we need to enable, and we want a configuration T. So now we're in global configuration mode. So what do we want to set up? We want to set up our VLANs. Now what commands will be used for that? Now let's say we haven't done this in a long time. What will we do for VLANs? Questions, so many questions. Well, guess what? Type a little question mark in, just like that, and we get our commands list. And if you want to read more, you can either hit the return so that you see one line at a time, or you get the space bar so that it goes page at a time. So what are we looking to do? We're looking to set up VLANs. Oh, look at that. We have a VLAN command. So let's go ahead and type in VLAN. Whoops. And what will we do next? Let's find out. Type in a question mark. Oh, look at that. What's the VLAN ID? Well, we're just going to set up 10, 20, and 30. So let's type in 10. And what would you do next? Well, it's giving a carriage return, right? So that's the return button, the enter key to finish the command. So we hit return. Now we're in VLAN 10 configuration. What can we do here? Well, let's type in the question mark. Let's see. We can exit it. We can give it a name. We can negate something. We can do remote span. Let me just extend this box a little bit, make it easier to read. So we're going to name the VLAN. We're going to keep it simple in this case, and we're going to name the VLAN what VLAN it is. So this is the name is VLAN 10. And we hit return. Now from here, we can actually switch over to the next VLAN. So we can actually type in VLAN 20. It'll switch to VLAN 20. Name VLAN 20. Keep it simple. We want to do VLAN 30. Return. and we're going to name it VLAN 30. And now we're going to go ahead and type in end to bring us back to privileged user mode, privileged exec mode. And here, what I'm going to do now is I want to make sure the VLANs were created. So I'm going to type in show VLAN brief. So what we can see right now is we have our 3 VLANs created. So I want you to imagine we've been tasked with this. We are told, hey, we need these 3 VLANs created. We need these ports added to those VLANs. So we've got the first one done. So now let's add the ports. So let's go ahead and go back to configuration mode, conf T. And now we want to do a range of ports. So we're going to do ports 01 to 05, right? Yes. So we're going to do interface fast 01 to 05. Oh, it didn't like what I did. Oh, we got to put interface range F01 to 05. Interface range F01 to 5. There we go. That's the format it's looking for. Alright, so now we're in the interface range configuration mode. So we want to first make sure that the switch port mode is an access port. Then we want to do switch port access VLAN 10. Now if we want to make sure to add those ports correctly, since we're not in privileged user mode, from here we can do a do show VLAN brief. And it'll show us that right here it added ports 1 to 5 to VLAN 10. Alright, so let's go into the next range. So let's exit out of that. And let's do interface range F06 to 10. And now we're going to do the same thing. Switch port mode, make sure it's an access port. And then we're going to do switch port access VLAN 20. We'll exit out of this. And we'll do the same thing again. Interface range F011 to 15. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 30. Alright, so let's go ahead and end that. And let's do a show VLAN brief. And as you can see, all our ports are assigned correctly to their VLANs. Okay, so now we have our VLANs created on the switch. So since the ports are added to the VLANs, we should not be able to ping other computers and other VLANs. So let's see. If we were to try to ping 192.168.20.2, which is VLAN 2 or VLAN 20, we should not be able to. So request timed out, request timed out. Okay, that's what should happen. So now we'll go ahead and we'll go back to our switch configuration, and we will take a look at let's end. And let's show IP routing. Show IP route. Show IP route. Default gateway is not set. Redirect cache is empty. Okay, so we have to configure our VLAN interfaces to give them IP addresses, because if we do a show IP interface brief, and that is the shorthand for that code, we can see that the only thing here that's showing is VLAN 1. So let's go to configuration T for global configuration mode. And now let's give the interface VLAN 10. Change the protocol to up, and we want to give it an IP address. So let's see, what's the format? IP address. And now let's give it the IP address. So let's see what we got here. So we were going to give it 254. Alright, so 192.168.10.254 for VLAN 10. And now subnet mask. And that should be it. Yep, and hit return. So now let's go ahead and go to interface VLAN 20. Change state to up, so no need to do a no shutdown on it. And let's do the same thing. IP address 192.168.20.254. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. And now let's go interface VLAN 30. IP address 192.168.30.254. The good old 24-bit subnet. Okay, so let's go ahead and end that, and let's do our show IP interface brief. And there go our 3 VLANs with their IP interfaces. Now let's do our show IP route again. We've got no routing. And by default, routing might be turned off. So we may have to go to global configuration mode, conf T, and here type in IP routing. Now let's do show IP route. Aha! So we turned on IP routing, and we did a do show IP route, and now it's showing us the 3 different networks that are directly connected to it. Okay, so now if we go back to VLAN 10 PC and we try to ping a VLAN 20 PC, which is 20.2, we should get a response. Now the first one may not go through because it's an ARP request happening, and there we go, we get a response from 20.2. So we should be able to ping 30.2, which is on a different VLAN network. And let's see, first one fails because of ARP. The ARP request. Ooh, that one's not going through. Why is that one not going through? 192.168.10.254 30.2. Let's try the 20.2 again. 20.2 works. Let's take a quick look at our configuration on this guy. Make sure we put the IP address in correctly. 30.2. Oh, default gateway is wrong. That'll get you. That'll get you every time. Default gateway 30.254. Now you may be asking yourself, and I'm going to answer that question right now. 30.2, bing, and a reply from 30.2. So you might be asking yourself, why didn't that work? It was only the gateway that was wrong. Well, you see, when we send the ping, we're sending the ping to the switch. The switch is then going to route it because it sees the VLAN as a different network because it has a different network ID, right? The .30 is a different network ID than the .10 based off of the 24-bit subnet mask. So the ping request is making it to the PC, but then the PC needs to reply back. Well, since the gateway was wrong, it was replying to the wrong gateway. It wasn't going to the switch. The switch wasn't accepting it and sending the information back. So that's important in networking. In networking, you may have issues where you have one-way communication. So when you ping, it went through this way, but hey, it needs to come back. And when it tried to come back, it didn't know where to go because the gateway was wrong. Once I put the gateway in correctly, it said, oh, I got to send that request back to my gateway because it's a different network, and boom. The switch, through routing, sent it back to where it was supposed to go, which is VLAN 10. So I know that was a lot of information there, but hopefully you could follow what I was doing. Simple little lab. What did we accomplish? Well, we created 3 separate VLANs, VLAN 10, 20, and 30. 3 separate networks, the 10.0, 20.0, 30.0. We created those 3 VLANs, we named the VLANs, and we kept it simple, just naming it VLAN 10. You can name it whatever you want, sales, marketing, what have you. Then we added ports 1 to 5 to VLAN 10 on the switch, 6 to 10 to VLAN 20, and 11 through 15 to VLAN 30. Then we turned on routing on the switch so that it could connect the 3 separate networks if it needed to, if we were sending from one to another. And there you go. Like I said, I hope that wasn't too confusing. I hope you were able to understand it. And little simple mistakes like that gateway being wrong. Yeah, that'll keep you from doing things. So for instance, we just grabbed 20.2, right? So we should be able to ping, let's put it over here. We should be able to ping 30.2. So let's try that. Ping. And we can. And the same thing, right? From 30.2, we should be able to ping 192.168.10.2, and we should be able to ping 20.2, and we can. So we have good connectivity across the VLANs. And that's all there is to it. Until next time, this is Freddie, signing off.